Now, why does the quality of imagery matter so much? So let's take let's take a look at a few examples here. So here are some images showing white balance issues with the imagery. You could see here that the facade is pretty washed out here. It's hard to tell what's really going on there. Now, let's see what the 3D model looks like. If we were to create a 3D model using those washed out images here, you can see that the facade didn't really map that well. There's holes in the 3D model's mesh, and the facade is just white, and it's really hard to tell what's happening there. So not a really high quality 3D model there. Okay, so example 2. Here's another example of, there are some washed out images here. And this happens sometimes when you're using the auto settings with the camera there, where the white balance changes on the fly, or the brightness or the contrast changes on the fly there. And you can see it's hard to tell where the roof outlines are, especially where the dormers are there. And so let's check out the 3D model and let's see how that turned out. Okay, so you can see the 3D model is still, pretty washed out. Not much detail here. Not a very high quality 3D model. Okay, so let's look at a before and after example. So the before image was taken from a batch of photos before the pilot knew anything about the drone's camera settings. The after is after the pilot adjusted the camera settings, it became a ninja when it comes to aerial photography. So notice the difference between the two. Huge difference. So the model quality will significantly change as well because of this. So let's check out the model quality. All right, so the before example is here. Okay, notice the facade is pretty washed out here. The texture overall on this 3D model is just pretty washed out. And let's check out the after example. Okay, significant improvement here when it comes to the texture map and improving the quality of that texture map for that 3D model. A ton of detail, looks great. So before and after. All right. Okay, so now with these examples, we went through the white balance and brightness examples. These are sometimes caused by the auto camera settings that adjust on the fly. So white balance and overall brightness and contrast aside, look for glare on the lens too. This can happen when flying at dawn or dusk. Also keep an eye out for those reflections on the roof as well. If there's just a few of those in the batch of images, you can just remove those, and that's fine. So now let's go back to the before and after example. And in order to go from the example on the left to the example on the right, we need to understand how the camera works, what settings to adjust, and overall what we can do to become better aerial photographers. Oops. Let me just minimize this. Okay, and with that said, we'll end this section here with the poll. So, do you adjust your camera settings? I'll hand it off to Jason here.
Perfect. Thanks, John, for walking us through some examples. So, just want to get a sense for how comfortable everyone is with changing their camera settings. As John walked us through what is photogrammetry and the different examples that we see in our software and when doing 3D modeling, Keith is now going to take us to how to avoid those problems and how to rectify those solutions. Before Keith jumps into it, we'd love to get a sense for how comfortable people are changing the camera settings, striking that balance of what the right type of imagery is to collect. Okay. So we've got about 47% of people saying that they don't touch them at all. And then about 40% say that they only adjust a few of the settings. This is typically what we hear from customers, especially those that start out with us, where they just get the drone as it is and the settings as it is. So that's completely on par and makes a lot of sense. What I hope is by the end of this presentation, and when Keith walks you through his portion, you'll feel more confident adjusting those settings and also knowing which settings to adjust in order to get the best imagery possible.